So, good evening. Tonight we're going to be learning perek Zayin, perek 7, chapter 7, part 1. The elements, the parts of Zérizut. We have covered the basics of Emunah, and now we're going back to Zérizut. Okay, so now the Ramchal says there are two parts of Zérizut, one that applies before a deed begins and one that applies after its performance. So before performing a mitzvah, we need to be diligent and exercise Zérizut and not delay starting the mitzvah. The process is described here in three different ways. The first way is when the time of a mitzvah comes, like saying tefillah or shema, then do it with Zérizut. Do it early, do it right away. Don't wait until it's too late. Number two, when an opportunity to perform a mitzvah, like giving tzedakah, then give. Don't say, oh, okay, later, or I can't be bothered, or whatever it is. Number three, or when the idea to perform a mitzvah comes to your mind, for example, wanting to help someone who is in need, someone who needs help, so you go and help. One should quickly do it so the opportunity to perform it is not lost. So here we see that how Zérizut is so important when it comes to actually doing a mitzvah. In Yeshaya it says, Yeshaya Hanavi, it says, Yemaher Yachish ve'yaseu. Quickly ve'aseu. Quickly do his deed. A person has got to do his deed quickly. We should not allow any time to pass between the opportunity that presents itself and the actual act of performing the mitzvah. And why not? Because, as the Ramchal says, ki en sakana ke sakanato. The Ramchal calls it even danger. What's the danger? There is no danger like his danger at this time. As each moment, each second that passes by, a new obstacle can come up, and then we won't be able to perform the mitzvah. How often one postpones doing something only to discover that by the time he is ready, something has come up that prevents him from acting. It happens the whole time. And Ramcha calls it actually danger, because then it's a matter of actually missing altogether the mitzvah. Or that the deadline for performing has already passed. Like tefillah, if the time passed, then you don't really get the mitzvah. Or for example, praying, right? Or as the Mishnah teaches us, Al tomar keshe'efne eshne. Don't say, when I'll have time, I'm going to make time, and I'm going to have time, and I will learn Torah. Because you might not even have a chance later on. You won't find that time. The Ramchal brings a midrash. The midrash is actually what happened at the time of when Shlomo HaMelech was to be made king. David HaMelech was very sick. And David HaMelech had a child by the name of Adoniah. And this child was very, very handsome. And he believed that he should be really the king after his father. But he knew, and everyone else in the country knew, that really Shlomo HaMelech is supposed to be the king. As Hashem had said, there was a prophecy by Natan Hanavi, who came to David and told him Bathsheba, your wife, is going to give birth to a child. You're going to call him Shlomo, and he is going to be the king after you, and he's going to build the Beit HaMikdash. But Adoniah seized the opportunity that his father was very sick. He said, you know what, I'm going to make myself king, and this way I'll make myself king. My father won't be able to stop me. And he was actually successful because he was very smart the way he prepared himself. He made himself a chariot, and he made people run. He went on like a whole procession. He had a whole parade. He invited people, tricked people to come to him. He also had a Kohen, and he also had a general of the army. So he had people on his side. He did trick some people, and some people willingly went with him, and he made himself the king. Now Bathsheba, the mother of Shlomo, heard this. How? From Natan Hanavi. Natan Hanavi heard this, so quickly he called Bathsheba, said to her, you have got to go and see the king and tell him what's going on. And while you're talking to him, I'll come and I'll fill in the gaps. And that's what she did. And she said, didn't you promise me that Shlomo was going to be the king? So how come Adoniah now made himself a king? And David was very surprised. Then, in the middle of it all, of this discussion, Natan Hanavi comes and he says, yes, I didn't know that you proclaimed your son Adoniah the king. You didn't inform me. So David understood what was going on. And here, really the purpose of Natan and Bathsheba was to really avoid a civil war. And that was a really very dangerous moment. And David promised, even though he was very, very sick, he promised that today, he said, Hayom, today I am going to make Shlomo the king. So he called Benayahu, who happened to be the Rosh Sanhedrin, the president of the highest court, and he called the Kohen Gadol, and he called Natan Hanavi, and some important people of his government, and he told them, you're going to take my son on my horse, the horse that is only for the king, that only the king is allowed to ride. So everyone will see that he is supposed to be the king since riding my horse. You're going to take him down to the spring, Gihon, and you're going to, by the spring, you are going to anoint Shlomo, my son. Once David had put out his plan, Benayahu said, Ken Yomar Hashem. Hashem should agree to this. So the obvious question is, there was already a prophecy, a nevuah, that Shlomo was going to be the next king. He was even named Shlomo before he was born. And he was going to build the Beit HaMikdash. So if David is asking his ministers to anoint Shlomo, why is Benayahu saying if Hashem agrees? So here there's a concept that when someone wants to do something, Benayahu was saying, from the time that we're going to leave the palace, go down to the spring, right? It's a matter of maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. During that time, there are going to be accusers. Who are those accusers? Bad angels. Those bad angels, malachim, are going to want to stop us from making Shlomo the king, from and stop us from doing the carrying on the coronation. So, what happened here? A promise from Hashem is granted on condition. One condition. What's the condition? That the beneficiary does whatever is necessary in order for the promise to take place. Where do we see this the first time? We see this with Yitzhak. Before Yitzhak passed away, he knew he had reached already the age of 123, and he called Esav and he said, my son Esav, I want you to go to hunt, and I want you to bring me an animal, bison. You're going to cook it the way I like it, so then I can bless you. Really, Esav did not go to hunt. There was plenty of sheep and beef and cows, and that Yitzhak could have told Esav to go and get. They owned so many animals. Why did Yitzhak tell Esav, go and hunt? And the reason for this is that because of the effort that Esav is going to go and hunt and come and do shechita and clean the animal and cook it, that is going to make it easier for the beracha to actually come and be fulfilled. Come to Esav and it would be fulfilled. So here we learn again, we see here that when Benayahu said, may Hashem agree, of course Hashem agreed. But he meant to say that there should not be any bad angels that are going to stop this coronation of Shlomo. So again, David HaMelech was actually using Zérizut to make sure that Shlomo would become king before he even died. Okay, we know that we all procrastinate, we all push off things, and the bad angels come, and they will try to, the Satan will try to come and stop us and ruin the opportunity. The Ramchal wants to draw our attention to the important lesson of this midrash. A person should realize that anything good can easily be obstructed, like I said, by the bad malachim. And this knowledge should motivate us to be diligent to perform a mitzvah. So because of that, when we have an opportunity, we should really do it and not give any opportunity for anything to stop us. A mitzvah הבאה על ידך, אל תחמיצנה. So when there is an opportunity, do not miss out on performing a mitzvah. In other words, grab the mitzvah. Chachamim taught us that just like a matzah is kosher, how? That from the time that we start mixing the water with the flour, we have to work very, very quickly, make it into a dough, quickly roll it out, make the holes, put it in the oven, take it out of the oven. So from that time that we just started mixing the flour and the water, the time it's actually baked, it has to be 18 minutes or less, but not more. If it's more, then that's it. It's not kosher for Pesach. It's chametz. Means the dough has to be worked constantly, not to allow the dough to become chametz at any time at all. And so the Ramchal says, just like the difference between chametz and matzah is so small, so too can and if it's done over the time, then the matzah is ruined. It's not a matzah anymore that's kosher for Pesach. So too is a mitzvah. The Ramchal brings a few more sources regarding the importance of beginning a mitzvah immediately. In the Gemara it says, Le'olam yakdim adam lidvar mitzvah. A person should always be quick to perform a mitzvah. And the Gemara actually brings an example that we know that Abraham had a nephew by the name of Lot. Lot had gone to live in Sodom. The people of Sodom were very, very bad. As Hashem decided to destroy Sodom, Amorah, and 5 cities that were around it, because all those people who lived there, they were really very, very bad people. So, but because of Abraham, Hashem decided to save Lot. So two Malachim came to Lot and told him, you have to get out of here because Hashem is destroying the place. So Lot took 2 daughters and his wife, and the Malachim said, let's go, it's really time, you are running out of time, you have to leave. On the way, the Malach said, do not look back. We are not allowed to look at someone who's getting a punishment. Don't look back, or like someone who is angry or doing an avera. We're not allowed to look. So here, the Malach said, do not look back. We know from history that Lot's wife did look back, and because she looked back, she actually became a pillar of salt. Lot and his daughters were taken to a cave. Now, the 2 daughters realized that they thought, and their thoughts were really, at that moment, they were convinced that the world was being destroyed. And they said, the world is being destroyed, there's just the 3 of us. What are we going to do to populate the world again? So the oldest daughter said, we're going to give wine to our father. I guess they must have taken out wine. And we're going to make him drunk. He's going to fall asleep, going to make him drunk. Tonight is going to be my turn. This way I'll have a child. And tomorrow you do the same thing. And this way you'll have a child. And from there, we'll populate the world. And that's what they did. So from the oldest one came, her son was born, she had a son, she called him Moab. And the second daughter had a child, and she called her child Ammon. We know that actually Ruth Avia came from Moab, and she was the great-grandmother of David HaMelech. And Naamah, the Ammonite, she was the wife of Shlomo HaMelech, and her son is the one who became the king after Shlomo HaMelech. So this was what was the purpose of this story that the Gemara is bringing, that these 2 girls, they did it, they acted quickly. It was an avera, but their intentions were not to do an avera. Their intention was to actually populate the world. It was a mitzvah. And there is such a concept, but I'm not going to go into it now. Then the Ramchal brings another midrash, and it says in Tehillim, Hu yenahagenu almut. He will guide us, Hashem will guide us, almut. Mazeh almut, what is almut? Almut is like youngsters. Hashem will guide us like youngsters. Why youngsters? Because youngsters possess the quality of Zérizut. So the reward of Zérizut in Olam Haba will be given to those who practice Zérizut in this world. Now, the next concept that I'm going to discuss is maybe a little complicated, but please bear with me. So what does this mean? Again, I repeat, Hashem will guide us like youngsters. Why youngsters? Because youngsters behave with Zérizut. They do whatever they do it quick. They don't waste their time, right? And the reward for people who now and during their lifetime, they behave with Zérizut, they do everything with diligence, they don't push things off in this world, then in Olam Haba, in Gan Eden, they will be rewarded with Zérizut. Now, what does that mean? If one fights his laziness in this world, which is part of his physical nature, then in Olam Haba, when physicality is no longer an abstraction, because physicality does not exist anymore, his reward will be to reach life, to reach the ultimate level of Zérizut. Again, since a person behaved with Zérizut in this world, in Olam Haba, he'll be given Zérizut. What do we need Zérizut in Olam Haba? What for? Right? We're not doing mitzvot anymore, so why do we need Zérizut? The answer is that in Olam Haba, tzaddikim will merit constant Gilui HaShekhinah, revelation, divine wisdom. What for? To grasp all those revelations will require superhuman rapidity of mind, extremely fast mind. In Olam Haba, we have spoken about this before. What the tzaddikim do, they learn Torah. When Hashem has created each neshama was given its talents and limitations. But here the Ramchal is teaching us that actually when a person in this world behaves in Zérizut, in whatever he does during his entire lifetime, when his neshama is going to be in Gan Eden, Hashem is going to give more power, let's put it that way, to his neshama, so that the neshama will be able to actually learn Torah on a higher level than it was actually supposed to. So one who strives to overcome the limitations of his physicality in this world and use his energy in the Avodat Hashem and the study of Torah will be rewarded in Olam Haba with swiftness, with Zérizut beyond human capacity. This will enable him to fully enjoy the Gilui HaShekhinah. What is Gilui HaShekhinah? The revelation, the teaching of the Chokhmah, to understand the teaching, which is the delight of Olam Haba. This is really amazing. How everything works. Midah keneget midah. How we behave, that's how Hashem behaves with us. So if we do everything in Zérizut, diligence, we don't push things off, we do the mitzvot as they come along, then Hashem will also reward our neshama, so that neshama will actually be on a higher level because the neshama will be given more wisdom. May Hashem give us the zechut of performing mitzvot with Zérizut. In the zechut of this lesson, may Hashem bless us all with beracha, hatzlacha, briut, parnasa, nachat from the children, shalom, zivugim, and the strength to go up the ladder of ruchniut, of spirituality, to get closer to Hashem and strengthen our emunah in Him.